cloudy. Did you have to use the windshield wipers driving in?
I did.
Yeah. See, we don't see rain around the studios, but it's the cooler air and the humidity, so it's wrenching that moisture out. It doesn't always show up on radar. We get some, light showers or sprinkles, and in some cases, some thunderstorms still remain isolated and moving out quickly. They think between now and 10, and then maybe a lingering chance of showers. So we were just talking about that misty condition because of the weather. The temperatures more specifically. We're looking for a high 76, partly cloudy 61 tonight. The forecast brought to you by the SIU Credit Union. They have great rates on auto loans. Apply online at siucu.org. I want to thank my guest, Jacob Swain. He's with the Redeemer Community Church. And our guest, Jacob, first off, we've been friends on Facebook. It's nice to know you're a real person.
I am.
You're taller in person than you are on Facebook, too.
Good to know.
I noticed that. He sent me a press release about the substance abuse programs they're running at his community church. And I was just telling before I went on the air, one of the part that stood out to me, and he would send me a note talking about substance abuse, and it's one of the subjects for September's Substance Abuse Month or something.
Yeah.
And you have a program now that you've introduced where you're going into jails. And I'll be honest with you, the reason why this stood out to me, Jacob, was if you've ever tried to convince someone who is smoking meth while they have a pipe in their hand getting a hit to quit, that does not work.
Yeah.
I can tell you from personal experience. I've tried it. They don't respond well. But you have an opportunity, and police tell me the same thing, and they've told me time and time again on the air, the Safety Act, where we let people go so quickly, that time in jail is sometimes where they come to their senses and go, man, I got to stop this.
Yeah, that's
and
what
that's,
I've heard too.
And I think when you're in that church, in that opportunity, you've got more chance of, gosh, I hate to put it so cynically, closing the deal when in recovery for them.
Yeah. And that's a new thing to us. It came about really because we started doing the ministry inside the rehab facility, and it just, it so happened that somebody that I connected with in the rehab program, unfortunately, was arrested and went to jail. And so when I saw that in the news, I reached out and said, hey, what's happened since we were connected? And just from that time, we've made more and more connections through that one person, as that person has said, hey, here's somebody that was helping me with addiction, and they can help you even here.
Yeah, and see, I naturally went to meth. But substance abuse, there's a reason why we use the term substance. There's a lot of temptation out there, whether it's fentanyl. But as I was telling Jacob, a young man who I'd known since he was 14 years old, grown up, wife, kids, died, drank himself to death a week ago this Friday, 2 weeks ago this Friday. And, he's not the first one that I've known. He's an older man, and this is, at the same time, I've got other friends that, they turn up dead.
Right.
We talk about jail and handcuffs, but dead is we need to bring this up. And the fact that there's a shortage of treatment centers, you probably came into that experience as well. There's not many places to take people.
Yeah, there's more people than there are beds and facilities to help.
And I think with the fact that you've opened your church, so you're doing jails, you're doing, I don't want to say AA meetings, but something like that?
So really, it just started organically. I lost my sister to addiction in 2017. She was 42, and it was not obviously the experience that I expected from my life, and it was something that kind of a lot of grief and a lot of pain and a lot of trauma.
Yeah, it's something that happens to other people, right?
And actually ended up with my mom became an addict in response to losing my sister. And so, right, that gives a lot of the insight that people need to have about how somebody who's never, been somebody that drinks, somebody that doesn't use drugs can end up very quickly spiraling. And so, yeah, we go into the gym where my mom was in rehab in 2019. We go into the into the rehab facility where she was. And I get to say, hey, I've seen this go both ways, and I want to see you go this path. I want you to be able to come out of here and walk through the doors of the church, and the second or third person that you meet is my mom, who can tell you about, her path of sobriety. And we've got a lot of other people like that. So it's really not, to me, it's not about programs. It's about actual connection and relationship, because that's what people lack.
How many people have been through your program, Jacob?
So we've distributed about 400 recovery Bibles, and so I would say about 400 people, because we try to make sure every person that comes through gets one of those. So that's how I keep track.
Well, it's interesting because you can look at this, and I've looked at it both ways. From the academic standpoint, it's a biochemical response, and you're addicted, and your body must have it. I've never felt that fully addressed the issue because I've always looked at this as a spiritual sickness. There's something wrong.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean you have to be handcuffed or hit rock bottom to seek help.
Right.
And I think this is another place that you can occupy on the shelf of choices here, saying recognize that this is something that's wrong in your life and you can fix it instead of pouring liquor on it or snorting it or smoking it. That option that comes with your program.
Well, and we're trying to help people to see that from our perspective. I mean, obviously I'm a pastor from a church, and so we do see it as a spiritual problem. And we know that, we have holes in our lives and we put all kinds of different things in there. And, in my own life, I haven't struggled with addiction, but I've struggled with understanding two big questions: who God is and who I am in relation to him. And my experience in meeting people is they also have those questions. And a lot of people are struggling with the things that they feel that they don't want to feel, and they think the only option that they have is to numb themselves to that. And we say, let's dig below the surface. Let's get away from the idea that this is just a behavioral problem and consider whether or not this is something that's deeper. Because most of us actually are the people that are sitting in rehab on Monday morning are not that different than people who are sitting at their desk or sitting on their couch at home on Monday morning. They just got caught, and the thing that they're using to fill the holes that they have got them into trouble. And so really, we try to almost normalize the experience. I mean, 1 out of 6 people, I think, in the United States struggle with substance use issues. That's a lot of people. And if you can get rid of the stigma and you can say, you can get better, and for me to be able to introduce them to people in our church that you didn't know these people.
Set an example and show it can be done. It's an attainable goal. Because I've literally had this conversation with a man sent to prison, smoking meth in prison, gets out, and the police are following because they know he's probably going to do it some more and maybe selling, right? So he goes back to prison and stays the entire term because he doesn't want anybody to watch him because he's given up. This is the only way he's going to be able to go forward, and trying to convince. This is a difficult conversation to have in the best of times if you've decided this is the only answer. There is nothing else. But, I mean, look at Alcoholics Anonymous. They recognize it. This is the blueprint for almost every treatment program. You have to give it up to a higher power.
Right. I mean, step one is straight out of what I believe that the Bible talks about, which is recognizing that our problems are unmanageable by our own strength and that we have to rely on, the AA program. NA says higher power. We say, let's take it a step further and tell you about this higher power, because it's a lot easier to relate to someone that is a someone. It's not the doorknob. It's actually someone that can connect with you, that loves you, and that is offering you an opportunity for a new identity, which is what a lot of people, that's what they're wishing that they could have.
Right. And and you can have that victory and learn from it and use it and share it the rest of your life. Here's how I want to end today. Jacob Swain, they have a substance abuse program at the Redeemer Community Church. What town?
In Carbondale.
All right. So if you want to reach out to them, because this is the idea that you don't have to hit rock bottom, in my opinion. I've seen other people recover without going and losing the house and the kids. Have seen it happen. And that there's some options. So if a grandparent is listening to this program and they know maybe somebody's in the family younger, how can they make that connection with you and your program in such a way as to have a better outcome?
I mean, as much as I appreciate the endorsement, I don't even think it's about our program. I think that the thing is, have honest conversations. If I could go back and change things as I related to my sister, we're way too afraid of having hard conversations. Have the hard conversation.
It is hard to have this conversation.
In our minds it is, but let me tell you what's harder. It's burying somebody that you love. It's writing their obituary. And so as hard as that is, have the hard conversation and do the hard work now, because it's worth it.
Here's one from Harold. It says, I just want to thank Jacob for his work as a pastor. Our pastors do not get enough credit for their service. Keep up the good work. Just one of the notes that we've received. So what is your idea? If somebody's listening this morning, okay, you got to reach out. You got to have the hard conversation, but the work still has to go in on the program. You got to do the work. Somebody's got to swing the hammer, and that's the person who's addicted, but they can get that support. So what's your next step?
To ask for help, and there are more organizations now than there's ever been. We've got an organization in Southern Illinois right now called Take Action Today. Honestly, I think going to a church, is a thing. I tell people where you go, hopefully there's going to be an AA or NA. There's going to be a church. I'm not saying every church is a great place. We all know better than that. But there are a lot of churches like ours that are looking for opportunities to help people. COVID was hard on churches, and we're eager and hungry to connect with people that want a life change, that want a new identity. And for us, if we don't have the answer, if we don't know the answer, I'm going to go find it for you. And so connection, is a big part of it. Take Action Today in Southern Illinois is a big one. Gateway is a treatment facility that we have here in Southern Illinois that we're fortunate to have. Centerstone is doing, a lot of things. But honestly, get with people is a big part of it, because any of the issues that we have tend to isolate us. You go back to the garden, Adam and Eve hiding away in their sin. That's the way that we kind of tend to deal with our problems, is to go isolate and hide. Don't do that. I think actually way more people understand and are aware of it could be any one of us in this situation, and I think most people do want to help. I think they are aware of it.
And I think the reason why, at least in my personal experience, Jacob, is because, and there before the grace of God go us all. Correct. And I think they realize that that's a pitfall. Now, I think the stigma you've talked about is still very real, but I think more and more people have come to realize it could have happened to me, it could have happened to somebody else, but, maybe that person stopped or redirected, and they're like, I can do something that helps now, and I should, and for the very reason you talked about. And I bet you've used the term and looked at the ground when we've heard about one of our friends, neighbors, family, and say, what a waste.
Well, and if I can just say this, you talked about the Safety Act. People are way too prone to sort of despair about what public policy is. This is an area where you can actually make a personal difference. You don't have to wait on the government to get it right. You can connect with people yourself. And the reality is most people who are in jail or in prison have substance abuse issues. And those people have substance abuse issues because they have mental health problems. They have relationship problems. They need a purpose. You can affect that kind of change, and you don't have to wait on the government or politicians to get that right.